for theme number 2. By the way, I'm loving the photos I'm seeing. So many of you are posting on friends of my girlfriends or the club, and I love seeing the photos that you've been working on your projects. You've been working on some of these 3 at 3 projects, and it just does my heart so good. It makes me smile. I'm just so grateful that you like go for it and just try these new things, and I love it. Just love it. So, with that being said, I decided, I needed to spend some time doing a little bit of sewing, even though it's probably later in the evening than I want to. Sometimes you just need to take that time and just sew. And I find that it just is so calming, right? And it just takes me back to why I love doing it so much. I just feel so much peace when I'm at my sewing machine. And so I worked on one of my projects this week. And then I pulled out another project that I did a little while back, but I never showed a demo on it. So that's what I'm going to do today, is I'm going to share with you 2 of my favorite projects that I've been working on lately for Christmas. Okay, so that's what theme number 2 is. So the first thing I'm going to show is one I did just this weekend. And I actually posted, I think, on the Friends page of it being quilted. And here it is. Let's see, it's just a little table topper. And this was so fun. Let me bring it up close, and you can see that it's just, some churn dashes and some 9 patch squares. I love the striped binding on it. Very pleased with that. If you can see, I used the clear blue tiles. Take a look at those cute bells that are quilted on there. And I think that was probably one of the most fun parts of doing this project for me. It was using the clear blue tiles because, before I would have to wait until I could get to Lorraine to quilt. And I love Lorraine's quilting. So don't get me wrong. You know how much I love Lorraine's quilting. But sometimes there are these smaller projects, especially, that you just want to get done. You just want to take it to the finish line and not wait for it to be quilted, right? And so this is where clear blue tiles allowed me to literally do this from start to finish. And let's see, if I turn on the back, maybe you can see some of those bells a little bit better. I mean, it looks beautiful on the back just as well as on the front. But I'll tell you, the clear blue tiles helped me feel like an absolute pro. So the piecing is all done on the sewing machine, and then the quilting is done on the embroidery machine. So I used, the pattern comes from this book. I know a lot of you have this. It's called a Scrapbook Quilt. And the one that I chose, let me pull it out. Okay. Oh, it's the 9 across rectangle pillow. This is the one. And in the book, it shows you how to do it as a pillow. Well, I didn't really need a pillow, but I have this little side table at my home that I thought, oh, this would be the perfect size. So I did it. I instead of just adding a pillow backing, I just used the regular, just a backing. And now I have a table runner. So kind of fun. So I wanted to show you that because just to encourage you that, you know what? You can do this. You can do these things quickly. And especially if, for those of you with an embroidery machine, use your clear blue tiles and get it done. Now, the second project that I'm going to spend a little bit more time on today for the how-to is that this was a project I did a little while back, but and at the time when I did it, I thought, oh, I'm going to teach a class on how to do this. And the time has gotten away, and I thought, you know what, I don't think I can pull off doing a class before Christmas. And so instead, I am just going to do a 3 at 3 demo on it. And it is, let me grab my Let's see. Let me grab a picture here. It is called The Best Gift. Do you remember this one? The Best Gift. And it is this right here. And you can see the actual theme. So I love this. We don't see a lot of nativity themes very often, but of course, we know that's such an important, well, it is. It's why we celebrate Christmas, right? So I thought this would be perfect to demonstrate to you how to do paper piecing. So if you haven't done paper piecing before, or you don't love to paper piece, let's talk about it today, shall we? Now, what I want to hear from you first is if you have done paper piecing and you don't love it, tell me in the comments why. What hold, or if you've never done it and you're too scared to try, what is holding you back? Okay, what's holding you back from doing paper piecing? Indy says she loves paper piecing. Me too. Me too, Indy. I love it. Same with Jennifer. She loves paper piecing. There's a lot who don't. And even a lot of people here are like, don't want to do the paper piecing. Okay, so I want to hear. Let's talk about it for a minute. Okay, Donna says too many steps. Okay. A lot of you do enjoy it though. Brenda says she enjoys paper piecing. Barbara says it seems complicated. It can seem a little complicated for sure. Judy says she doesn't know how to paper piece. Okay, good. Judy, I'm glad you're here today because that's what we're going to talk about. So very, very good. Okay, Cecilia says she can never figure out what it looks like before flipping and ends up with holes. Interesting. That is interesting, Cecilia. Okay, we'll talk about that. Kathy loves paper piecing. Everything turns out perfect. And same with Becky. She says it's about the accuracy. Kathy Miller says she loves it. It's like paint by number for quilters. Very, very true. Linda says she recently did it after many, many years. The challenging part to me is the trimming between each sewing step. Okay, interesting. Let me help you with that for sure. Whoops, let's see. Marcia, I think people get confused with sizes of pieces needed. Definitely. And Fern likes it, but she has to relearn each time she does it. Okay. Barb says she's excited that it's paper piece. She bought it, but she hasn't read it yet. Love paper piecing. Yeah, it really, you're going to love this pattern, Barbara. So much fun. So whether you are doing this exact pattern, or maybe you're not doing this one, but you think, you know what, I would like to know a little bit more about the steps of paper piecing. That is what I'm going to show you today for theme number 2. So let me bring up my banner real quick and we'll move over to the sewing machine. There we go. All right. Renee says she gets a little nervous to start, but when she starts it, it's really easy. It's very true. That is very, very, very true, Renee. Okay, so let's head over to the sewing machine, and I'll take you step by step on how it's done. Okay. So the first thing that happens when you buy a pattern that is for paper piecing is you're going to get something that looks like this. This is today I'm demonstrating with showing how to do the gift. So you have, if you can see this, you've got backgrounds and then you have the bow. So we're just doing the top. We're going to paper piece the top, and then the gift is actually a solid square of fabric, and you add this on. So the thing you'll do first is that you cut out the pattern just on, you could do it on regular paper. There's also like foundational papers that you can use that are a little bit lighter weight, real easy to tear. But this one is just done on a regular copy machine, so which is totally fine. There's a few things that I always like to use. Hold on. And that is, one is a glue stick. Okay. Here's my go-to pieces. 2, a business card. Oh, well, look at that. If you bought any of our kits, you probably have lots of these because these are always in our kits. So that, and I also love like the add a quarter ruler. Okay. This is one of those you don't have to, but nice to have items. So I always like to show it, but you can certainly do it without it too. But it is nice. Okay, so we're going to start out with this. Now, somebody mentioned earlier that they're never sure what size to do this. Okay, what size to cut your pieces because they've sewn it on before and they're left with a gap or a hole. One of the things that you want to be certain of is that you have more fabric usually than you think you do, than you think you need. Now, most patterns will tell you exactly what to cut your fabric measurements at. And if you do that, then you can't go wrong. It's going to be the sizes that you need according to the directions. Some patterns don't have that on there. So if that's the case, always go make sure you're about a ½ inch at least larger than the piece that you're going to be paper piecing. Now, let's talk about why would someone want to do paper piecing. For one, and some of you alluded to this, it is so accurate. It is way more accurate than doing it on your own. All right. It is much more accurate. Your piecing is going to be much more accurate than doing it on your own without having the foundation there. Some people will say that that paper piecing wastes fabric because there could be a lot of fabric wasted. Yes and no, I would say. I would counter that with sometimes yes, sometimes no. And what I would say is that paper piecing is great for using up your scraps, your stash. Just make sure you have a piece that's about a ½ inch larger at least, and you're golden, right? But when you think about it, it's really not that much more waste. Okay, so let's get started with. Someone also said that it's like paint by number because we're going to start with number 1 first, then we're going to move to number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so you're doing this in order. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is this has the printing on the front, and this is my background piece. And now I'm going to bring the camera down. Okay. So if my background piece is this size, I want to make sure that my background piece absolutely totally covers it. But I'm going to actually place it on the back of my paper. The reason why you want to do that is because you need to have the lines so you know exactly where to sew onto. So with the back, with the front of that paper side down, I'm going to place my fabric right side up on top of it, just centering it where my background is. And if you're having trouble, you can look at, hold it up to a light and make sure that it's centered. But this is the only piece that will actually have the right side facing up. Everything after that is the right side facing down. Kind of like what we talked about on Friday with the quilt as you go method on the strip and flip hot pads. Now, this is where I use a glue stick. I actually like to put just a little dabble of glue. It doesn't even have to be a special glue stick. I just use any kind I have available, and I just place it right there. Now, you certainly could use a pin here if you wanted to, but I just like holding that into place, no pins, and just keeping it there so that it's not going to move. I only have to do that on the first piece only. Okay, so with that in place, I am going to go to the line between numbers 1 and 2, which is this line right here. And I'm going to fold it back on top of itself. So this is where I use my little business card here. And I bring this down. I line it up against the line. Let's see, line it up right here. Let me bring this camera down a little bit. Okay. So between the 1 and the 2, place that here, and now I'm going to fold it back on top of itself and give a crease. All right, so that's all I do. Now, the reason why I like this is because if I'm trying to fold this back, sometimes it's hard to tell where the line is. So this is my little trick for that, is I just put it on the line and then you fold it back on top of itself. Now it's really easy to know where that goes. All right, now you need to trim 1/4 inch away from that fold. So this is where I'm going to use my little add a quarter ruler. It has a lip on it, a 1/4 inch lip. Look what happens. That lip catches onto the fold, and now I'm set up to do a perfect 1/4 inch. All right, and there you go. I have my 1/4 inch right here. And now I can bring my paper back out, flip it over, and I'm going to take my bow piece and line it up just in the center of where I just cut. Okay, just centering it like that. Can you see that? I'm just lining those raw edges up right there. Okay, now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch. But guess what? All I have to do, I don't even have to line it up on the 1/4 inch because I'm going to flip it over and I'm actually going to sew directly on the line. I don't need to worry about a 1/4 inch. The 1/4 inch has already been built into it. So I'm just going to sew directly on the line. Now, here's another tip for you. You're going to start at the beginning of the line and at the end of the line. I am going to do a reinforcement stitch at the beginning and at the end. What I mean by that is that the needle stays in the same position and I go up like 2 or 3 times. 1, 2, 3. It stays there. It just kind of gives a little bit more strength to that beginning stitch. And now I will stitch, and then at the end I will do it again. The reason for that is because when I pull off the paper, I don't want it to pull away my stitches. Now, one more thing to make note of before I go to the sewing machine. When you go to sew this, you want to actually shorten your stitch length. You're going to shorten it. If the default is like maybe at a 2.0, I would shorten it to be like a 1.8 or even a 1.6. The reason why you want to shorten your stitch length is because it's going to make it that much easier to pull off the paper. That short stitch length will perforate your paper, making it super simple to tear off, and your stitches are not going to pop. All right, so let's head over here to the machine, and let me set the camera up there. All righty, so I have it there. So my length is a 2.0. I'm going to take it down to a 1.6 and bring my foot up. I'm going to do a locking stitch. Now, if your machine doesn't have a locking stitch, that's okay. You're just going to do a back stitch a couple of times, all right? Okay, I'm getting towards the end. I'm at the very end. Now I'm going to do a locking stitch once more, and I'll cut my threads. Okay, I'm done with that piece. Now when I open it up, I fold it back on top of itself, and I'll just do a little finger press. If I have my fabric folding pin right now, I'd probably use that because I love that tool so much. I would use the fabric folding pin. I'd do that and push it back. Okay, so that's the first step. Now let's go back over to the cutting mat, and I'm going to flip it over. And now what am I going to do? I was at 1. I've added number 2. Now it's time to add number 3. So what I'm going to do is take my little card here. I'm going to place it on that line between 1 and 3. Okay. All right, so it's on the line. And again, I'm folding it back on top of itself. I'm going to take my add a quarter ruler right there, and I will trim this up. Now, if you don't have an add a quarter ruler, that's all right. Go ahead, just take a regular ruler, measure over a 1/4 inch, and trim it up. Okay. All right. So now I'm back to that, and I know exactly where to place my next piece because I just cut it. So get into the habit of, you see the line, you fold on the line, you cut a 1/4 inch off the line, then you sew directly on the line. It's like 3 steps to the line. All right. Think about it that way. So now I'm going to take you through that 3-step process. All right. So remember, I folded on the line. So I just finished that. I cut 1/4 inch away from the line. Now I sew where that line was. So let me grab my other piece. Right side facing down. I'm going to center it along there. Okay. If you wanted to, you could place a pin in there, but I'm just going to turn it over with my fingers, holding on to it. And now, what am I going to do? I'm going to sew directly on the line. So fold on the line, cut 1/4 inch away from the line, and then stitch on the line. See the 3-part process? All right, let's come back over to the machine. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to flip it over so that I can see my line. I'm starting at the beginning. I'm doing my locking stitch, making sure again that your stitches are nice and smaller. Okay, I get to the end, and now I'm going to do a locking stitch once more. Trim my threads, and there we go. Now I have that. So now I can fold it back on top of itself once more. Finger press that, and now I have the beginning of a bow. I know it looks a little strange, but hold tight because it gets better. All right. Okay, the last 2 pieces are that I'm going to do the backgrounds. Okay, so with this one, I'm going to do number 4 next. Now, I can add this. Also, if you have the add a quarter plus ruler, this also has a tapered edge here at the end. You could use this tapered edge as your way of folding back on top of itself as well. So let me show you that. I'm placing it right here. Let's see, I'll do it this way. There we go. So, oops. So the tapered edge is now on the line. I'm going to fold it back on top of itself. Okay, so I found that. Now I take it out. I place the 1/4 inch right there and trim. And while I'm still here, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side at the same time because I can do that. I'm just going to switch this around. Again, my line is right here. So I place it down. I will flip my ruler over, have a tapered side, pull it back on top of itself, bring this out, put my 1/4 inch lip right there, and then trim. Okay. All right. So now I'm ready to add my 2 final pieces of this block. These are my backgrounds. So I will put this one right side down here, and then this one will go right side down there. So my 1/4 inch. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Oops. Okay, so this is lined up. See that? There we go. Oops. Flip it over so that I have a line to follow on. Locking stitch, and sew. Locking stitch. I'll flip this baby around and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to line it up here along that edge, flip it over, and begin to stitch again. Perfect. Okay, so there it is. Let's bring this out. This still looks a little strange, doesn't it? But let me show you what magically occurs next. Okay, so I'm going to finger press this out. You could take an iron to it right now as well. Or like I said, if you had a fabric folding pen, I would use that. And it looks like this, which looks a little ski-wampus, but this already has the 1/4 inch seam allowance built into it. So all I have to do is now trim on the outside line. I'll go ahead and use my little ruler here to do just that. This is so much fun. Now, once you get the hang of this, oh my goodness, you could do these so quickly. Sometimes at first it seems a little tedious, but oh, the results are so rewarding because everything is perfect. Okay, there you go, my friends. Look, a perfectly pieced bow. How fun is that? Now I need to add one last piece, and that's the square of my gift. So before I do that, though, I'm going to go ahead and tear this. So here's another tip for you. When tearing, I like to just kind of put some pressure on that seam so that I don't pop my seams. Some people will actually, so I just kind of hold it with one finger as it goes. Some people will actually soften this with a little bit of water, like a spritz of water, and that would soften the paper as well. Okay, so now there's no paper left in it. So I have one final step to do, and that is to put this right side down, and I'm going to have a gift here really, really soon. All right, so right sides together. The bow is at the top of my package. Make sure you put it back to a 1/4 inch, and my length is a normal stitch length. I don't need it to be at a small stitch length anymore. And I'm about done. Yay! How cute! Isn't that fun? So on this pattern, you're making 7 of these, and then there's a little manger that you make as well. So, so fun to do. Okay, so that is kind of in a nutshell what paper piecing is all about. What do you think? Let me grab my thing here, and I'll come back and see what questions we have and do my best to answer. All righty. Okay, Kathy has a great question. She says, why paper piece instead of flying geese on that project? It's just the way that the pattern designer wrote it. So it's totally, it's totally up to you. If you think, you know what, I could, because really, ultimately is like a flying geese block, or you could do half square triangles and do the same thing, right? But it's just the way the pattern designer wrote this one. Now, this is a very basic paper piecing going on here, right? But I'll tell you, when paper piecing really gets kind of crazy is when you have lots and lots of angles coming in at the same time, and lots of tiny pieces and big pieces and all these pieces coming together. That's when paper piecing, my friend, really gets good. And then you see the manger, that's all paper pieced as well. So these are things that, it's just different methods, right? It's just different methods. People have different techniques. Some people who love to paper piece don't love to do it the other way. People who don't love it the other way might love doing paper piecing. So it really is totally up to you. So, but the way that this pattern in particular is written is based off of paper piecing. So, but a great question. All right. What size of add a quarter ruler was I using? I believe I was using the 1x6 add a quarter plus. So yes, Alice, can the mini simple folded corners ruler, isn't that such a mouthful, right? Be used as an add a quarter ruler? Yes, basically any ruler can. If you have that 1/4 inch off of it, that mini simple folded corners ruler would be great. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. Let's see, what other questions do you have? Teresa, you're so nice. Oh, thank you, Susan. What was the name of the book with the table runner in it? It is A Scrapbook of Quilts. A Scrapbook of Quilts. It was the one that I showed earlier. Okay. Let's see, I'm just kind of scrolling through really quickly. Sable says she loves her add a quarter ruler. Yeah, that's true. Kathy says she only sews as short of a stitch as she's willing to unpick. Very true. Now, I will tell you though, if you're doing paper piecing, there's very, very little unpicking because everything is so precise. And if you could just sew on that line, you're good, right? So there's very little. But I promise you, if you're doing a lot of pulling off papers, you're going to want to shorten that stitch length. Oh, yes. Diane asked, have you ever used a light table to help see the lines? She hasn't tried it yet, but would like to know how. Absolutely. A light table is perfect. Holding it up to the light works. Holding it up to a window works, but you only need that, Diane, for the very first one that you do. Pretty much. If you've done it according to the instructions that the designer has given you to cut this certain amount, you should be just fine. But yes, you certainly could use a light table. And it's yeah, it works great. Let's see. Ooh, what does Linda have to say? I love paper piecing. The first piece was always a challenge to remember how to set it up. Then someone told me 2 wrongs make it right. In other words, wrong side of paper to wrong side of fabric gets you started. That's perfect. Oh my gosh, I love that, Linda. That's genius. Yeah, 2 wrongs do make it right. We always say it doesn't, but it does on this time. I love that. Wrong side of paper, wrong side of fabric. That is your first step. After that, you're going to do it just normal as you would with putting it down and then over. I love that. Love that. Okay. There you go, Connie. She was taught fun to sew paper. Fold, trim, sew, press. Fold, trim, sew, press. Fold, trim, sew, press. Yeah, like get that little vibe going on. So you just always remember fold, trim, sew, press. Fold, trim, sew, press. Exactly. You do have to think a little bit backwards. Yes, that is true, Jane. You do have to think a little bit backwards. Yep. Okay. But honestly, the first time after you get the hang of it, oh my goodness, it's so, so, so easy to do. You'll go, oh my gosh, why haven't I done this before? Right? It's really fun. Oh my goodness, Rhonda, her first paper piecing was a Judy Niemeyer, very involved and confusing, but beautiful. Oh, holy cow, woman, you deserve a gold star. A gold star. If your first project was a Judy Niemeyer, you can do anything. Anything. It doesn't matter. That's amazing. That's really incredible. Oh, good idea. Kathy says, if you do have to unpick some stitches, put a piece of removable Scotch tape over the line to reinforce. Be sure to remove the tape before you press. I love that. Great idea, Kathy. I love that. Perfect. Good. Judy says she's been wanting to try this for a long time. Fantastic. Well, I think you know, it really can be a lot of fun. This, like I said, this is a finished project. And if you're looking for a really simple, fast Christmas project and you want to try paper piecing, this is a great way to begin because it's very, very basic. The pattern is called The Best Gift. And I'll show you our kits here in a minute. And then again, the one I showed earlier was a scrapbook of quilts. And this was the runner that I did out of it. And I quilted it with clear blue tiles. So super fun. All right.